ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Civilization 6, coming at you with a special First Impressions video featuring the newly announced Babylon Civilization featuring Hammurabi. And boy oh boy, these guys look interesting. Hammurabi was known for the expansion of cities through the building of infrastructure as well as the improvement of the lives of Babylonians through scientific innovation. And as we walk through the abilities of this civilization, you're going to see those characteristics become a common theme. So let's dive right in and take a look at what Babylon has in store for us. First of all, their ability as a unique, Hammurabi's unique ability, I should say, is the Ninu Ilu Sirum, which is that each time you build a new specialty district in your civilization for the very first time, you get the tier 1 building, if you will, the cheapest building for that district for free. But it's just the first time you build it across the empire. So the first time you build your campus in any city, you get a free library. First time you build any theater square in your civilization, you get your 3 amphitheater. Same thing with your markets in your first commercial hub. And of course, as you can see here, you get a free shrine with your very first holy site. Now, first impressions of this ability, it's not bad. It's a nice little kickstart. Obviously, for your first couple cities to be able to get those out quickly, get your first trader, that extra trader a little bit quicker with your market, a little bit extra science, a little bit extra culture, start earning those extra great people points just a little bit faster. Nothing wrong with it, nothing crazy overpowerful. The one thing I will point out that I actually kind of like about this is actually the fact that you get your free arena with an entertainment complex, which allows you to make a quicker push and a more convenient push, if you will, towards the Colosseum. The Colosseum, as I'm sure many of you know, I feel is easily one of the top 5 wonders in the game. A, because it comes early enough that you can get a lot of value at it throughout the game. But also because obviously it provides culture and amenities and it's all things that can help you early in a game. And so wanting to get that is great, but sometimes it's like, oh, I got to build a Colosseum. And then I still got to build the arena. And it's, sometimes you build it in a 3rd or 4th city and the production of that city is not great. And it just takes a while and it feels like you're slowing down that city to build the wonder. But being able to speed that up by 6 or 7 or 8 turns, maybe by getting the arena for free and then throwing the Colosseum on it feels really, really nice. So that's probably the one thing I like about this ability the most. Now, the second part of this ability, which I haven't mentioned yet, is that you get a free envoy when you produce non-specific specialty districts. So, for instance, in this case, they're showing you having this neighborhood being completed. They're chopping out the end of the neighborhood, and they get a free envoy. Not too bad either. It's not bad. Do I want to build a neighborhood just to get a free envoy late in the game? Probably not, but it could be advantageous. For instance, there's likely going to want to build an aqueduct or 2, so you're going to get a free envoy there. Maybe you need to build a dam because you got a lot of floodplains, you're going to get a free envoy there. So there are some cases where, nice little bonus envoy here and there's not bad, but from my own personal experience, I find that by the time I get into the mid to late game, when I've used the first envoy counts as too early in the game, I've been paying attention to the quests and trying to get as many of those done for free as possible. And then on top of that, you start accelerating ahead of the AI by going through the culture tree much quicker. And going through the culture tree much quicker means you're getting all those free envoys in the second half of the tree. And I often find myself controlling the city-states I want to and then having 6 or 8 or 10 or more envoys just sitting there waiting to defend against anybody trying to take them over. So, for instance, if there's a particular city-state that I want to keep, and somebody comes in and tries to take it over, like an AI, then you say, okay, fine, I've got a bunch in reserve, I'll just add 2 or 3 more in, and it's mine again. So I don't find like I'm desperate for envoys, particularly later in the game, so this ability, again, not particularly strong. Overall, it's cool, it's neat, but it's not overly impressive, but it's not bad either. It's got some definite advantages. So, moving on, the next thing we're going to talk about is the unique unit, and it is called the Sabum Kibitum, or something along those lines. And it is a unique ancient era melee unit. And as it says here, who could possibly resist? Now let's talk a little bit about what this unit does. It is, of course, available in the Ancient Era. It has a base strength, as you can see here, of 17 base melee strength, which isn't much. But it has a very unique ability of adding an additional 17 combat strength against cavalry units, both light and heavy cav. So, actually starts to become quite valuable in combat when it has to fight, for instance, horse barbs. And of course, as I'm sure many of you know, when horse barb camps pop off with 2 horses and 2 horse archers a turn for like 3 or 4 turns, it can become a real pain in the butt. So spitting out 2 or 3 extra of these, and just even if you wanted to just fortify in hills and let them smash into you, you're going to get 34 combat strength against them just as a base, because of these guys' unique ability, which is pretty sweet indeed. In addition to all that, you're thinking, how could there be more? Well, these guys also have 3 movement, as you can see down here. You can see they're 2 out of 3 movement at the point in this particular shot, and 3 extra vision. So that means that they actually act as kind of a pseudo alternate scout, if you will. So even if they're not fighting off horse barbs, or potentially even helping you in a push on one of your neighbors who might happen to have some light cavalry horsemen, particularly early in the game. Obviously, you're not going to want to throw these up against knights or whatever, but if you do happen to send 2 or 3 of these in on a push on your neighbor, they could actually help cover your flanks with horses and stuff like that. So they have that ability, but they also have the ability to actually scout for you pretty well with the 3 movement. So what you're going to be able to do with these guys is if, let's say you had to spawn 2 or 3 of them to take care of some barbs, then you can just start exploring the world some more. Maybe you find an extra couple of goodie huts. Maybe you get some extra bonuses out of that. But having units that can move around the map quickly is always a good thing. So I would say a pretty decent all-around unit. Obviously, the fact that the unit comes early means era score early in the game. It's going to give you a really good shot of that early golden age, which of course you're going to want to get. So anytime you have an ability that sparks era score in the ancient era is always a good thing. So that is the Sabum Kibitum unique unit. Now, what's next, you ask? Well, next is the Palgum, their unique building for Babylon, which is a replacement to the watermill. And this replacement to the watermill is actually pretty cool. I like it a lot. This building is unique to Babylon, like I said, and it provides an additional housing, which is nice as a change over the normal watermill, as well as 2 production instead of 1 production for the because normally you get 1 production in a watermill. And then in addition to all that, you get a food on each tile adjacent to any fresh water. So next to a lake, next to a river, that tile gets +1 food all across your lands. And of course, the city has to be adjacent to a river, just like to build a watermill, you have to be adjacent to a river. So, breaking it down, you get an additional production. Production's king. That's great. Excellent. You don't get a free food in the building. Normally, you get a production and a food. You're not getting a food as a base here, but you are getting the housing. And the housing comes in invaluable because, as you can see on these tiles, you're getting all kinds of extra food along this river. So you can see here, there's 4 food here. This would normally be a 3-1 tile. That's 4 now. This would normally be a 1-4 iron hill, as you can see here with the science. But boom, there's an extra food. No problem. We got you. Up here on this hill, this would normally only be a 1-2-1. Now you've got your 2 food. Very valuable tiles to work. And because this building gives you that extra housing, it's going to help you take advantage of that extra food by allowing your city to grow super duper quick, which is great. So having that building in all your cities, building along rivers. And the other thing to keep in mind here as well, in addition to all that, is that because this unique building is only done, capable of being done along rivers, this city's going to have a river bias. Okay? I can pretty much guarantee you that this city's going to spawn with a bias towards rivers, which is fantastic. There's not many spawn preferences that civilizations can get that's better than rivers. Being able to spawn on rivers on a regular basis as a civilization, even if you don't have a unique building like this, is fantastic. because rivers are very valuable, obviously, for fresh water, as well as your commercial hubs and other things like that. So great stuff indeed. Now, one other thing I wanted to mention too, and I actually just kind of realized this, because the city is going to be along a river, that's going to be an extra food in the city center as well. So just in the city alone, you can see, I'm not really sure what was underneath this tile, if this was a district or not. You'd probably end up putting a district there anyway. But 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this is a district up here. But you're looking at maybe 5, 6, 7 extra food in a city because you built that. I mean, that is pretty big when you add 2 production and housing to that. Cities are going to grow super quick because of this, and I like that a lot. So there you go. That's the Palgum. Now we're going to move on to the final ability that the Babylonians are going to give to you, and it is an extremely unique, unusual, dynamic ability. It is called Anuma Anu Enlil. I think I came close on the pronunciation there. I apologize if I didn't, but that's it. And what this ability does, it's very simple. It's very straightforward. When you get a Eureka in your science tree, it does not provide half the science or 40% of the science. It provides all of the science. So any Eureka immediately unlocks the entire technology, 100%. So if you earn a great scientist, then you get education. It's just done. The tech's done. And in this case, as they show in the video, and by the way, there's going to be a link to the video in the description down below if you want to go back and watch that. I'm sure maybe you've already seen it anyway, but you can go back and watch that, and you'll actually see in the video that they have a worker build a lumber mill. And of course, mass production is unlocked up here with the lumber mill. And so you can see you skip through the tech tree however you want. You didn't need to get education by earning a great scientist in order to get mass production. You could just skip right through it. Even if you didn't have apprenticeship, doesn't matter what you have already done. As long as you get the lumber mill technology ability and build that lumber mill, mass production can be yours. And that's true throughout the entire tree. And this is going to provide a very, very unique style of gameplay. Of course, you're going to have to focus even more on getting your bonuses, or your Eurekas, I should say, to your technologies. Now, normally when I'm running through, particularly in a science game, I'm doing everything I can to try and get as many of those boosts as possible, because it's still worth 40% of your science. It's going to help you get through the tree faster and get to a faster victory. That, of course, makes total sense. But sometimes when you're playing, it's like, ooh, I don't have time to build an aqueduct. It's too much production. I'll just hard tech that. Or I'm not building encampments just so I can build an armory, so I'm just going to have to hard tech this. Stuff like that. And that happens from time to time. But with these guys, it's going to be a very unique kind of gameplay where you're going to be like, you know what? That's just way too much science. I'm going to have to get an encampment built so I can do things like build an armory. And get build forts with a military engineer and all those kinds of things that are going to lead to Eurekas that you're going to have to get. So the gameplay is going to be extremely new, widespread. It's just going to be completely different. Normally, you don't worry about building 2 harbors when you're not on the water, because who cares? We'll just hard tech cartography. Well, now you're not going to want to hard tech cartography when you have a negative 50% impact on your science. By the way, I'm not sure if I mentioned that. Maybe I didn't. But that's the other half of the deal. Your science output at the empire level, no matter how much science you're getting, the final science output of your civilization is halved to minus 50%. So you're not going to want to be doing a lot of techs without the Eureka, because it's just going to take so much longer. Twice the time, in fact. So, building harbors, building a couple of galleys so you can get to quadrants, things like that. All of that stuff, you're just going to want to get all those things done in order to move through the tree. So it's going to be very unique. It's going to be a really interesting battle. A lot of kind of change to the meta in your head. You're going to have to really spend a lot of time thinking about your gameplay. Okay, how am I going to get this done? How am I going to get that done? I got to get all these things done. I need to get a knight, even though I wasn't planning on building knights. I need to get one and go kill a unit, or else I'm not going to get the boost. Those kinds of things. Now, I wanted to take a quick look through, I actually have the tree open, and I want to take a quick look at some of the things that people are going to think about exploiting. Real quick, I'm not going to dwell on it too much, but just to kind of show you an idea. Because look here, a wheel and ironworking, boom. Build an iron mine, you get both those technologies instantly. Swords, super fast. But the other problem is that you need to find barbs. or else you're going to have to hard tech bronze working with a 50% penalty on your science. So you've got to make sure you go find the barbs. The other thing to keep in mind too, which is actually a bit of a nerf, is that oftentimes, when it comes to crossbowmen, you want to have like 5 or 6 or more archers online in order to be able to just upgrade them. But the moment you get 3 archers, you can't get archers anymore because bingo bango, you've got crossbows. So what you're going to want to do perhaps early on is maybe spam out 4, 5, 6 slingers, which is again something where it's like, well, I got to go to my way to build 4, 5, 6 slingers. But otherwise, you're going to have to hard build archers, and then you're going to have to hard build crossbows in order to get to a number that you're happy with. And of course, you don't have to. You can spam slingers as long as you want, as long as you don't have one of those slingers kill a unit. The moment that you do kill a unit, those slingers are going to turn into archers, and your pre-build world is over. So that's something to keep in mind. Is there's interesting little nerfs to that. The same kind of thing applies. For instance, once you have iron, like you can't, you want to be able to hit knights, so you can't pre-build heavy chariots again until you're out of iron, which you can manage that, but it's some of those things you have to think about. Other things, and again, I'll just hit a couple more that kind of came to my mind that are interesting, is getting a builder and mining 3 hills, whether there's a resource on them or not, gets you apprenticeship. So you could have apprenticeship, a medieval era tech, like super duper early in the game, like in the ancient era, and all of a sudden your mines are an extra production. In addition to that, because you've unlocked industrial zones so quickly, you can get those online in your cities very quickly, and you could potentially build 3 of them and the workshops that go with them. Remember, you get your first workshop for free, and instantly you're at industrialization, which means you're getting industrialization production out of your mines right off the bat. Not to mention you've exposed coal. If you have a few coal resources in your land, it's going to help you obviously with the production because it adds a lot of production, but also it'll help you with settling some of your cities, because if you get it super early, you might still have 2 or 3 or more cities to settle, and being able to know where the coal is to identify that bonus production for a new city is absolutely powerful. And so that is a very interesting mechanic to be able to push to industrialization super early in the game and really crank up the production of your cities. Another thing that I had in mind as well that I kind of noticed is building an industrial era or later wonder, as you can see here, which for instance could be Ruhr Valley in a super productive city. You are instantly sprung to flight. And that means you could be at modern era. Possibly, if you really rushed it, maybe you don't get it in the classic, but at least at the very latest, you could be entering into the medieval era with flight. And flight, of course, comes with tourism bonuses for tiles that provide culture. And that is very interesting. That is very interesting indeed. So there's lots of little things like that you're going to notice. Building a coal mine and an ironclad gets you steel. So instead of having to tech all the way out here, because oftentimes, for instance, in a culture game, you're going top tree to get to flight, top tree to get to computers, and then you have to go all the way back here and start over on the bottom side in order to get to steel, because you want Eiffel Tower in a culture game, in a tourism game, I should say. Well, don't worry about doing all this. You can build Eiffel Tower the moment you get a coal mine and an ironclad online, which is not difficult and can be done quite a bit earlier in the game by building, for instance, a couple of shipyards. Boom, ironclad online. You've got, we already talked about getting coal. Boom, there you go. So there's lots of really interesting ways you can manipulate the tree, and so it should be very interesting. Now, that being said, let's jump real quick into the analysis of the end of this game, or the end of this video, with a breakdown real quick. You can see here the descriptions. Is basically everything we already talked about, so I'm not going to go through them again. You can read them there if you'd like, or you can watch the video and see them go through them that way as well. These guys are going to be extremely interesting. So let's take a look at how I break down their overall abilities at the different victory conditions. When it comes to science, I hemmed and hawed, and I've chosen to give them a 4 out of 5. Now, some of you might be like, are you crazy? All of this free tech and you're going to only give them 4 out of 5? But keep in mind that a lot of the late game technologies, and I'm going to very quickly jump over here again to the video, and I want to come to the game, and I want to show you down here. A lot of these late game techs are extremely difficult to boost. Many of them need a boost through Scientist, which is you have to be extremely lucky to get, or through Spy, and you're not going to get them through Spies because your enemies are not going to have these technologies of their own anyway, unless you're extremely late in the game anyway, and now you're at turn 400 and who cares at that point? So a lot of these, like kill a fighter, not going to happen. And you need a lot of these to get to all these endgame techs. And these techs take a ton. I have games where I have close to 1,000 or over 1,000 science per turn. And it still takes 2 turns, 3 turns, 4 turns to get through a lot of these late games and a lot of these. But if that 1,000 science in an extremely powerful game gets cut to 500, that means it's taking 4 turns, 5 turns, 6 turns on all of these, which is going to slow you down more and more and more as you're trying to push through to a faster victory. And keep in mind, that's if you have a civilization capable of 1,000 science, which isn't necessarily going to be the case because you might not have focused science as much early on, and it's harder to get it up and running. So if you only have a civilization producing 600 science a turn, cut that to 300, it's going to take a lot of turns to do a technology that takes 2,586 science, or these ones out here, which take, I think, close to 3,000. So it's going to take you forever to do these techs because you can't boost them, and your science is incredibly nerfed. So with all that being said, I hold the right to adjust this number, but I feel like the late game is going to slow you down a lot with this minus 50% nerf. And so I'm giving him a 4 out of 5 for now. On the culture side, speaking of the theaters, we have a 4 out of 5 as well. And which is very interesting because you kind of think, well, they don't have any bonuses towards doing cultural things. But as I say all the time, science is as important in a culture game as culture is, because you need to hit those milestones. But like I said, you can get to flight super early by getting the tech, right? We talked about that. And also, even computers. Again, I'll jump back over here and show you guys. Computers. Adopt a government with 8 inherent policy slots. This actually will unlock if you get, for instance, if you're rushing culture, you're going to get to Forbidden City and Patella Palace extremely early. Get those built, mix it with a 6-slot government like Merchant Republic, and it actually unlocks. So you can get those 2 wonders built and instantly have computers, which is going to give you another 25% to your tourism. You toss on that, like I said, flight, which you should be able to get force into the game much, much earlier. And you can grab steel fairly early and grab Eiffel Tower and get your parks up and have that. You can do all of these things at an accelerated pace because you're hitting all of your scientific milestones so much more quickly. You don't have to worry about teching all the crazy hard expensive science stuff at the end to get all the milestones you need in the science tech tree for a culture game, which gives you a huge advantage. So you can play your game. Oops, sorry about that. You can actually play your game quite easily, pushing and forcing theater squares and culture all game long, and then just use your tech boosts to hit the milestones you need without having to actually worry about building campuses and getting your science up. So a really good synergy there, actually, for a theater square, for a culture game, a tourism game. Now, on the military side, I didn't know what to do, but I went ahead and gave it a 4 out of 5. And the reason why is because I feel like there's some really cool synergies you can put together. Maybe it's not this strong. Maybe it's more like a 3 because you don't have a unique unit that's super powerful at any point. But I think if you find the right combination of events, you can get a lot of bonuses to getting units online much sooner. Like you can get some crossbows super early and push your neighbor. If you do the right things, you can get out some cavalry super early. Compared to your opponents. So if you can push through the right parts of the tech tree and get to the right units and get them built, get them pre-built, upgrade them, get your gold going, then you can actually make some really interesting pushes on your neighbors and really have a lot of strong advantage in a military game. So I'm giving them a 4 out of 5 right now. Maybe it's a 3 out of 5. Maybe I'm overselling it a little bit. I could see that dropping to a 3 out of 5, but whatever. Now, as for Faith Game, I've given them a 2 out of 5. And really, this is barely, I feel like, a 2 out of 5. I just barely got it there. And the reason why, and again, I'll just quickly jump over one more time. I got to open up the tree here. There's 2 reasons. First of all, if you happen to find a natural wonder super early, it's going to give you the shot. You could actually build Stonehenge super quick, or it obviously get your holy sites online, get your preferential religion online as quick as you can by having the holy sites available super early without actually having to tech it. But the other biggie that was kind of the more important part of why I did this is that you can actually quickly build a classic or later era wonder, which is pretty easy to do. Build Petra or something real quick. And then you get the Hagia Sophia super early. You can get the Hagia Sophia getting built like the end of the ancient or beginning of the classic era quite easily if you do the proper technologies. And Hagia Sophia is a very valuable wonder in the tech tree for a faith win. So obviously the +4 faith, but the extra spreads on your apostles can be very valuable. So combination of potentially getting astrology for free and of course getting buttresses for free and getting the Hagia Sophia online super early, I decided to give it a 2 out of 5. We'll see. I don't know. I think that's a fair assessment. So there it is, Babylon. It's Hammurabi, everybody. Everybody was clamoring for Babylon. People love this Babylon civ. They've seen them in previous Civilization iterations, and now you've got it in Civilization 6, the greatest civilization of all. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed. I'd love to hear your comments. Tell me how you guys want to play these. Show me your exploits. Tell me what you want to do with this unique Anuma Anu Enlil ability. Leave some comments. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.